Here we go. Patriots get a win tonight, 27-6. We're here with the Frang and Mack post-game show. Frang, I know you're fired up. What'd you think about this game?
What a great game. And you know what? I'm going to steal this quote from a quarterback across the way from Green Bay. RELAX, relax. Two-game losing streak is stopped. It's halted. And boy, I don't want to say that we're a different offense. I think we're a different football team when Rob Gronkowski is on the field. According to Mike Reese, he played 42 of the 69 offensive snaps. That is a lot more than I thought he'd play. But clearly his presence is felt when he's on the field.
I agree. That was a great win. That was everything we really talked about need to be in the pregame show. I mean, we knew the offense was good. They made the plays they had to make the game. Excuse me, and they didn't move the ball like consistent. They weren't rapid fire scoring touchdowns, but they made the plays they had to make the game to win the game. They scored that huge third down touchdown to James White. But the defense was the story of this game. The front seven was in the quarterback, whether it was Hoyer or TJ Yates at the end. They were just swarming the quarterback, and they had no time to throw. It helped out the secondary tremendously, and this game was won by defense, which is very encouraging after the past two games where they haven't performed. This reminds me so much, if you can remember back to the San Diego game around this time last year, where the defense just single-handedly won them the game. So it's a great win. This is what championship football teams, this is how they win games, with defense on the road.
Yeah, Mac, I agree with your points. I think Christmas came early in New England because with both Denver and Cincinnati falling in the standings and adding a loss in that column, the Patriots are right back and control their own destiny. Number one seed in the AFC. That's great because of the first round bye, and it comes through New England. That's great. And yeah, the defense, they were all over Hoyer tonight. 5 sacks. Akeem Ayers played great. Jabal Shear with 2 strip sacks. Hicks, I'm sorry. What did I say? Ayers? Yeah, he was with us last year. And by the way, if you remember, he was acquired in the trade that sent the Who Man to New Orleans. So
Agreed.
The defense played great. The offense just looked a lot smoother.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's still, spots that they can improve. But I think with Gronk in the lineup, they're going to succeed, and they're a different team. But the only thing that concerns me is now looks like the injury plague is now hit the defensive side of the ball. McCourty, that's tough. He left, didn't come back. Freeney didn't come back. And Luke Eric Blunt's injury now. Dominic Easley, who's finally healthy, and he goes down. So I mean, I guess we'll have to wait to see. We're trying to check the Twitter reports. There's nothing out right now, so we probably won't hear anything until tomorrow afternoon for those updates.
Yeah, I didn't know when McCourty got hurt. I literally just saw it on the TV about 2 or 3 minutes ago. It was on a play. Jamie Collins made a nice pass breakup, and he wasn't touched. He just came up limping, grabbing his – it wasn't to the point where you think it would be an ACL non-contact, but it looked like he might have just rolled that ankle a little bit. I'm assuming it's going to be a high ankle sprain, which isn't catastrophic. But
3 to 4 weeks. But
it'll probably be the end of his regular season.
Yes, but again, that's why this first-round bye is so important. Mm-hmm. And when he went down, it looked like that non-contact injury. It looked kind of scary. But yeah, I'm assuming it probably has something to do with the high ankle sprain, which is a tough injury to come back to, but definitely not season ending, and definitely something that you can come back for a playoff time. But what did you think about the Patriots kind of limiting J.J. Watt? Clearly not the same player. 0 quarterback hits, except for the illegal one in the first quarter. Was just held to a couple tackles, 3 tackles. And again, no quarterback hits. So what do you think? How do you think they did on J.J. Watt?
It was a tremendous game plan, really. They had him double team basically the entire game. NBC kept showing the replays. They were smacking him around like it was nothing. And I mean, it left him vulnerable at the end of the game. Jadeveon Clowney was really turning it up, but that was to the point where they were down by 3 touchdowns, right? So it didn't really affect the game too much. But J.J. Watt clearly limited with that hand. It was a great game plan, and we should have probably seen that. I mean, a lot of people were not very confident in this offensive line, but the previous 3 matchups the Patriots have had against the Texans with J.J. Watt, he's been like that, and how he was tonight. They've really shut him down. I don't know. It might just be a Belichick, Matt Patricia thing, but they know how to shut him down. It's like on when they take away a offense's best weapon, they can almost take away your defense's best weapon at the same time.
Yeah, I think they did a great job of double teaming him. I think they even triple teamed him and hit him with a chop block with was a White. They did a great job of knowing where he was on the field. And he with the broken hand, he can't move around as much as he'd like to. But yeah, I mean, I said to you during the game, let Clowney beat you. I mean, I don't think first round pick from 2014 still hasn't lived up to those expectations. Had a great game, but like you said, a lot of it came when a little too late. It came when you were down 3 scores. But everything looked great from the offensive line standpoint in the first half, but it looked like they fell apart in the second half. I don't know if that was adjustments from the Houston defense or more or less of the Patriots offensive line, who I use the analogy of a sinking ship that they're patching up with duct tape. So it was just a matter of time before, the leaks started to come through.
Yeah, I agree. But they were bad down the stretch, which will be just concerning if that happens towards more in the playoff time. But when it came down to it, they gave Brady time when he had to make plays, and they made the plays. That biggest play of the game was the James White touchdown run on third and goal. That put the nail in the coffin. It was over from there. And we were texting during the game how Stork got absolutely blown back by Marcellus, but I truly think that he was kind of letting him take him back because he wasn't focused on where the ball was. He was just trying to blow him back, and White just ran right past him into the end zone.
So looks like the Patriots had a pretty decent day running the ball, 116 total yards on the ground, including Tom Brady getting in the action with a 13-yard run. But Brandon Bolden, we've got to give credit where it's due, comes into after Lou Gehrig Blount injury and plays great, finished with 51 yards on 16 carries. And, we were talking, like you said, during the game, I just don't get why James White doesn't get too many. He only had one carry out of the team's 31. He fits that Shane Vereen role where he just does not get carries. He'll average 2-3 carries a game, but he'll catch a couple balls out of the backfield. Do you think if Blount goes down, if the injury is a little bit more serious than we think, is Bolden that lead back and White is now still in that 2 to 3 carries a game? I mean, now kind of thin at that position, but it seems like Bolden's that guy to run the ball.
1,000%. I mean, the thing is, I don't mind that they're not giving James White carries. I never really wanted them to give Shane Vereen carries because I just don't think those guys run the ball well. I think when they're met with contact, they kind of just go down easily. They don't really find the holes too well. When they do, they can burst, but they just don't hit the hole very hard like a guy like Brandon Bolden or LeGarrette Blount.
You could say the same thing with Blount, though. I mean, there's no denying Blount is a power runner, but the problem is you watch him and he has a ton of 1 and 1.5, 2-yard runs. I mean, Blount
is Lawrence Maroney all over again.
Yeah, that's a fair. And Lawrence Maroney bounced out of the NFL real quick, so I don't know if he's quite a Lawrence Maroney, but he's in that same, I guess you could say, because I mean, Blount there's a couple teams that he just destroys, like the Colts. That he has their number, but other than that, he's good for 40 to 60 yards a game, nothing flashy, a lot of boring 1 and 2 yard runs, but then he does have the speed to break through. If he does get to the secondary, he has that speed. He's a downhill runner. But it's kind of frustrating to watch.
He's a game plan specific player, is what I've always said about him. Last week, the game plan could have called for him had they stayed in the lead because Philadelphia has a bad run defense. If you can remember back to the Redskins game earlier this year, the Redskins have a terrible run defense. He had 129 yards. The Colts, they always have a bad run defense. He runs for 150, 200 yards on them. But when met with a above mediocre run defense, he's not going to do anything. He's a game plan specific type player, always has been.
So I was just browsing Craigslist, and I think this was posted by Tom Brady. I think he's looking for a punt returner because this is a second consecutive week with a blunder, or third consecutive week, you could say, with a blunder on special teams, returning the football off a punt. What was going on? It looked like Keyshawn Martin was trying to do too much, and he had a couple good runs on returns, but that play is huge, and I have to put you on blast yet again, like I do every week, as the most overreactionary fan, saying that it's a momentum swing, game's over, they're going to lose, they're going to blow the 14-point lead. What do you think about Keyshawn Martin just trying to do too much and probably taking his eyes off the ball, trying to gash his whole team?
I think I'm going to have to put this one on the coaching staff. I mean, obviously, Keyshawn Martin, you're a wide receiver in the NFL, catch the ball. So I'm not taking it off him. But after what happened 2 weeks ago with Chris Harper, you don't put an inexperienced guy back there. I know Danny
Well,
Amendola.
Martin did return punts in Houston.
Yeah.
But the problem is, every guy, maybe they don't admit it, but they want to get their old team. That's, the guy that gave up on them, that traded them. Maybe he's trying to do too much. And this is the thing about having so many depleted injuries all around. Because Julian Edelman's gone, Amendola cannot return punts because we need him as the slot receiver in the offense. And, Brandon Bolden now, another guy who earned his contract from playing special teams, now may have to be thrusted into the offense, just making the special teams who is, I would say, probably a top 5 special teams unit in the league. Hasn't looked that way as of late, and that I think is due to the injuries.
Definitely in the return game, yes. They've just like I said though, but I understand Amendola is so crucial to staying healthy right now. But you just have to put your best football players out there at the position needs to have the best player possible out there. And right now, the best player out there to punt return for the Patriots is Danny Amendola. And they learned after Keyshawn Martin fumbled, they said we have no choice. We have to put Amendola back here. I think had he been out there earlier, he wouldn't have fumbled. And they wouldn't have been that. Luckily, the defense came up with a massive stop like they did all night.
Yeah,
I would be kicking myself if I didn't mention in this podcast Jabal Sheard, who had an absolutely phenomenal night.
Yeah, I think Matt Patricia is probably the most underrated member of the Patriots coaching staff because, Josh McDaniels is just a genius when it comes to, thinking of those offensive plays that are kind of like drive starters. But Patricia's done a great job. And you know what? I love the concept of putting your number one cornerback on shutting down the number two wide receiver for the opposing team. Malcolm Butler did a phenomenal job on Nate Washington, had one catch, that 149-yard catch, shut down the rest of the game. Then you put Logan Ryan on your number one, your number two corner, and your number one opposing wide receiver. Logan Ryan, again, phenomenal job on DeAndre Hopkins with safety help. They held him to one catch in the first half, finished with 3 for 52 yards. But I love the scheme they got going on. And, don't let the numbers deceive you. I know 3 catches for 52 yards isn't a lot, but 40 yards came on one catch. And that was when Devin McCourty was out of the game, and Daron Harmon, I don't know if that was a design play where it's just like, all right, Logan Ryan's doing a great job. Let's try to take a chance of not having, safety over the top help. But I think overall, this secondary has been playing great, and just another game shutting down an opposing offense.
I agree. And even after Devin McCourty went down, I think it was the third quarter or so, they continued to play well, which really surprised me. Granted, you're playing against Brian Hoyer, not an elite quarterback at all, but they're going to need to – these cornerbacks are really going to need to step up in the coming weeks because they're not going to have a Pro Bowl caliber safety over the top for these remaining 3 games that they have to win all 3. For the end of the regular season, they need to Logan Ryan, Malcolm Butler need to continue to have great games, and Leonard Johnson, who came in his 3rd day as a Patriot or whatever it is, and had a couple key plays.
Yeah, great breakup, and you know what? I'll reiterate it. You know what? I'm not even going to reiterate it. I'm going to say it again. Christmas has come early in New England. You have to remember the Broncos are playing the Steelers next week. That's a tough matchup for both opponents. Then in Week 16. Cincinnati plays Denver. So there you go. That's another loss. So it looks like if the Patriots win out, obviously control their own destiny. They'll hold on to that 1 seed. But if the Patriots slip up, they're still, in the running for that second spot in that wild card, in the second bye. So they're in a great spot, and they're set up for success. Let's just hope that the injuries don't come out as seriously as they looked.
I agree. And Andy Dalton doesn't look like he's coming back anytime soon. But this team needs to get healthy. They need to get a bye week. They need to win these remaining 3 games, or at least 2 out of the 3, which I believe they will. Devin McCourty's the guy you want healthy easily. Big factor, but I think you can survive if he's out for an extended period of time. McCourty, absolutely need him healthy to win the Super Bowl. If he's done for the year, sorry, you're not winning at all. I just don't think you can get there. But overall, great win. It's great to get back on a winning streak here.
On to Tennessee.
on to Tennessee, who got
At
absolutely
home.
obliterated by the Jets.
Mariota did catch a touchdown pass,
He
so we
did,
do
so-
have some stuff to talk about next week
We do.
with the podcast.
All right. That's our post-game show. We'll see you guys later this week.